Okay, should we get some coffee?
Sure. Where?
The Friends cast never had group dinners. In 17 years after the show ended, they only ate together once. Lisa Kudrow revealed this shocking truth during the reunion. It's going to be okay. Yeah. Easy for you to say. Hey, I don't see 3 kids coming out of your. While fans thought they were best friends, Lisa was fighting her own battle. I don't remember it being too bad for me. She avoided after parties and group events. She said it reminded her of being abandoned by friends in middle school. But there's more to the story. Something happened on that set that made her feel like an outsider. The real reason Lisa stayed isolated will surprise you. Lisa Valerie Kudrow was born on July 30, 1963 in Enino, California, into a house filled with science, silence, and pressure. Her father, Dr. Leanne Kudrow, was a brilliant headache specialist who opened the first private headache clinic in the Western United States in 1971. Her mother, Nedra, had worked as a travel agent, but the real strength she showed came later. She survived breast cancer and even lived through the early wave of the COVID-19 pandemic, but passed away quietly in February 2020 at age 89. The Kudrows weren't flashy, but they were intense. Their home in Enino was comfortable, filled with books and expectations. Lisa wasn't raised around chaos. She was raised around achievement. She was the youngest of 4 siblings, but the age gaps were so big that it often felt like she was growing up alone. Her sister, Helen, was born in 1955, 8 years older, and ran a ceramic arts business called Honeymoon Designs. David, born in 1957, became a neurologist like their father and took over the clinic in 1995. Derek, born in 1959, stayed completely private. He never stepped into the spotlight. Helen looked so much like Lisa that she even stood in as her body doubled for a few scenes on Friends. David married in 1984 and had 2 sons, Ethan and Danny. By the time Lisa was still in school, her siblings were already building their adult lives. That left her, the quiet one, buried under books. Her childhood was spent in a house where you weren't praised for being popular or funny, but for being precise. At dinner, instead of gossip or jokes, there were discussions about the brain. Lisa felt the weight early. She played tennis like it was homework. She read like it was survival. She didn't get to run wild like other Enino kids. Her parents set strict academic rules that left little space for being a regular teenager. She felt different. Not because she wanted to, but because she was built that way. Even when she went to Taft High School and made the varsity tennis team, it didn't mean she was fitting in. It just meant she was achieving something again. She started showing signs of deep introversion around age 5. While other kids played outside, Lisa stayed inside with books that were too old for her. Her mother called her an old soul, and teachers noticed how Lisa overthought even the simplest social cues. She didn't just avoid parties. She didn't even want to be seen. The world felt loud, and she preferred the quiet corners. By middle School, the gap between her and everyone else had grown. She couldn't keep up with the social code around her. She didn't try to. She studied French. She studied biology. She studied everything but people. Then came 7th grade at Portola Middle School. That's when the floor dropped. 2 of her closest friends told her she needed to see what it would be like if they weren't around anymore. They walked away like it was an experiment and Lisa was the subject. The rejection wasn't random. It was planned. At the same time, their class was reading MCBTH, and the line, "What's fair is foul and foul is fair," started repeating in her head. It captured everything. Lisa felt like her world had flipped upside down. The meanest kids were admired, the kind ones were ignored, and she was stuck in the middle, alone. Her sister Helen, who was 20 at the time, noticed what was happening. On half days, when the other students went out to lunch in groups, Helen would drive to the school and pick up Lisa. She'd take her to lunch off campus just so she wouldn't have to sit alone. It wasn't once it became a routine. Hella watched the clock, read the schedule, and showed up. Most 20-year-olds wouldn't have even noticed. But Hella did. She saved Lisa from something darker. Lisa called it extraordinary. When Lisa asked her parents what she did wrong, their answers hit hard in the wrong way. Her father just said, "F them." Her mother told her, "You can't do that." No one helped her process it. No one slowed down to let her speak. They didn't mean to hurt her, but they left her emotionally stranded at a time when she was already isolated. That moment hardened something inside her. She stopped trusting groups. She began to protect herself with space and silence. The scars didn't fade quickly. She began avoiding any group activity. She buried herself in vocabulary books and science projects. She started believing friendships could vanish at any moment. When she eventually found fame, she thought maybe finally she could love herself because the world did. But even then, it didn't erase the 13-year-old girl who had no one to sit with at lunch. At Taft High, she tried again. The tennis team gave her structure, and she pushed through, but the social part never clicked. That summer, she tried attending a special program at Cornell University. She took 2 courses, Jewish history and writing, and failed both. Not because she wasn't smart. She was too overwhelmed by trying to figure out where she fit. Her dad told her, "You failed, too. Good for you. Have fun." Now, he could see how tightly wound she'd become. It wasn't about the grades anymore. It was about her mental health. At 16, she got a rhinoplasty. The surgery changed her entire self-image. She had it done right before transferring schools, and it gave her something she'd never had before: confidence. She said, "I went from hideous to not hideous and meant it." It wasn't just about looks. It was about finally feeling like she had a shot at being seen differently. Even with all that going on, Lisa excelled in school. She focused on biology and won awards in science fairs. She got into Vassar college and graduated with a degree in psychobiology in 1985. Right after that, she spent 6 to 8 months working in her dad's clinic doing real medical research. She got her name on a study about left-handedness and cluster headaches. This wasn't a celebrity internship. She ran data. She studied neurological patterns. She grew up in a house where medical breakthroughs were normal. Her brother, David, now a neurologist, had once been childhood friends with John Lovovitz. Years later, John would encourage Lisa to try acting, but her life wasn't headed there yet. In high school, she'd taken a trip to France. That trip started her fluency in French. She kept practicing and got better through college. Then, in the early 1980s, she had a French roommate who was dating a guy named Michel Stern. Years later in 1995, Michelle and Lisa would get married. It all traced back to that high school trip, where learning French had felt like just another academic task. But Hollywood brought a different kind of pressure. After her nose job, people started commenting on her body. Even when she got compliments, they came with silent rules. Stay thin. Look perfect. Compare yourself to everyone on Friends. She said she felt like a mountain of a woman next to Jennifer Aniston and Courteney Cox. She began losing weight just to keep up. And when she did, people praised her, no matter how unhealthy it was. The nose job gave her confidence, but it also opened the door to body image issues that never really left. In September 1981, Lisa Kudrow left behind the soft warmth of California and stepped onto the cold campus of Vassar College in New York. She wasn't there to perform or to be seen. She was there to study psychobiology, the way other people study oxygen, something vital, something inherited. Her father, Dr. Lee Kudrow, had built a quiet legacy, researching headaches. Lisa wanted to follow him. She kept her GPA at 3.7. Graduated in May 1985 with a degree in biology, and never missed a beat in the lab. She ran varsity tennis, spoke fluent French, and buried herself in data. Her junior year, she lived in strong house and practically slept in the science building. Acting wasn't even in the air. She spent her nights coding neurological patient files, learning to identify clusters, testing for left-handed dominance in people suffering from migraines. It was precise, it was clinical, but it was hers. Even after graduation, she continued working with her father, remotely helping from Menino. Together, they would publish something that made real medical history. In 1994, a study called Handedness and Headache came out in the journal Sophilgia, and her name was right there. They examined 273 cluster headache patients and 477 migraine sufferers, and what they found had never been seen before. 24 of those 273 cluster patients were left-handed. That number was 13 times higher than the general population. It pointed to a neurological pattern no one had ever connected. And with lidocaine nasal spray, they saw a 55% success rate in treatment. Lisa Kudrow was before anything else a real scientist. Harvard was within reach. Stanford was circling. But while she was breaking through in medicine, something stranger was starting to grow. Around 1983, Lisa's older brother introduced her to John Lovitz, a loud, eccentric comic already doing stand-up back in LA. He wasn't like anyone from her lab. He made her laugh without trying. And she made him laugh without meaning to. He kept noticing how Lisa, without realizing it, would slip into voices when talking about lab work or lecture halls. He told her she was funny. She told him she wasn't. He told her again. She dismissed it. But something cracked open. In late 1985, 6 months after Vassar, she took her first real risk. She enrolled in an improv class taught by Cynthia Sagetti at the Coronet Theater. But it didn't go well. It was humiliating. During one exercise, she froze completely. Her scene partner had to carry on alone for 5 painful minutes while Lisa stood there, paralyzed. She almost quit that night. And maybe she would have if not for Conan O'Brien. Conan had just left Harvard. He was gangly, fearless, and totally willing to be ridiculous. Lisa watched him throw himself into scenes without shame. Something shifted. After class, she walked up and said, "Hi, I'm Lisa." That was really good. It was the beginning of a friendship and a short, sweet romance. Conan would become her safe person in a world that made no sense to her. During college, Lisa had always been awkward around relationships. She'd lost her virginity at 20 to a Turkish exchange student, a quiet, strange experience that opened a door, but left more questions than answers. Conan was different. Intense. But brief. They lasted 8 months before career paths pulled them in opposite directions. Then something else happened. Just 1 month after breaking up with Conan, Lisa met Michel Stern at a birthday party. He was French, charming, and polite. Years earlier, she'd had a crush on him, but he'd been dating her roommate. Now he was single. But Lisa couldn't act on it. Not yet.